Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Erica Nicole. Welcome to Rooted and Rich. If you're new here, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment. I really want to start a community here of people who are really interested in diving into money, numbers, values, all of those things. So if that sounds like you, please subscribe, like, and comment so that we can become a fam on Rooted and Rich. All right, so today I want to talk to you about Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps, because I would say that Dave Ramsey kind of kickstarted some of my, or jump-started some of my beliefs in money. And I really do believe, I know some people might think this is controversy, or maybe it's not, but some people were like, oh, Dave Ramsey doesn't really work for certain people. But I honestly felt great value in it. And I wanted to kind of go over these baby steps because they really brought a lot of value to my life. So step number one, when you are trying to crawl yourself out of debt, Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps or plan is a great way to do it. He has a book, The Total Money Makeover, and I read the book from the front cover to the back cover, and I just found it really good. I read it probably in 2019, right after I had my son, because I was really trying to make sure that I was setting my son up for success and setting myself up for success. And it just reaffirmed a lot of the things that I had already learned and had already been doing. But it was just a great way to get started, and it really is kind of like start with square one. So when you with the baby steps, so number one, I'll just jump right into it. Baby step number one. Baby step number one is to save $1,000. Now, from some of you all, that might be simple. For others, that might be very hard. For some of you guys, you might have more than $1,000 saved up. But the first step is to get $1,000 saved up. And the reason you want $1,000 saved up is because you need at least $1,000 in case of emergency. And unless you lose your job, most emergencies are $1,000 or less. So let's say you have a car accident, your deductible is around $500, or you need a new tire, it's probably $120. Excuse me. Most emergency funds, most immediate emergencies are $1,000 or less. And if you wanted to be on the safe side, you could raise this number to $1,500, because that $1,000 number was some years ago in 2019, or the past is not 2025, almost 2026 prices. Alrighty. So after you get your $1,000 emergency fund, the next step is to pay all your debts. And Dave Ramsey likes to do the snowball method. Now, there are many methods to paying down debt, but the key here is to attack your debt aggressively. So you're throwing everything at it. You're getting a second job if you can. You're selling stuff. You're doing everything. You're aggressively attacking your debt, and you're doing it through a method called snowballing. So what snowballing does is it takes the debt that has the least amount of money, and it pays everything else at the minimum, and it puts all the extra money to one debt. This allows you to gain momentum. So that's why they call it snowball, because it's like a snowball. The further it goes, the bigger it gets. And so it snowballs into the bigger payments. But the reason this is really neat is because you can get some wins, which is good for your psyche. So like when you pay off your smallest credit card, let's say the one is $500, or maybe it's $100, you're like, yes, I won. Instead of trying to work to pay off something that's like $5,000 and it's taking you months and months and months and months. So in this, you're going to take your lowest debt and you're going to attack it all the way to your highest debt. So as soon as you complete paying off that $100 credit card, then you go to the $500 credit card, and then you go to the $10,000 student loan, and you just go and snowball, doing this as quick and fast as you can. Dave Ramsey recommends that you try to do this process in under 2 years. And so you're doing everything. It's like throwing the kitchen sink at it. You are trying to pay off all debts, credit card debt, student loan debt, auto loan debt, everything outside of a mortgage. At this point, you're not focused on your mortgage debt. You are focused on, or your mortgage loan, you're focused on consumer debt, credit cards, auto loan debt, student loan debt, like that, and stuff like that. One of the things with the Dave Ramsey plan, it assumes that you are not using credit cards going forward. So you are chopping up your credit cards. You're saying, I'm living from cash only. And I wouldn't recommend everything in that. So I'll talk about that in a minute about like how I deviate from the plan. But I do think this is a great way if you have debt, and I think it's okay if you want to, because if you keep charging something or if you keep creating habits of going back to the credit cards, you'll never pay them off. So if you want to, this is your time to cut up your credit cards, not close the accounts, but cut them up. You know, you can request the card later when you have better financial skills, or maybe you don't. But this is the time to really focus in on that. All right, so then the next thing, after you paid off all your debt, now it's time to build that fund. And what you're looking to have is a 6 months emergency fund. And now I would say 6 months to 8 months to a year, depending on your situation. So for me, I'm a single mom and I have a one income household. So to me, a larger emergency fund like 8 months or 12 months is like really ideal. Some people even say they have a 3 month emergency fund, but if you have a partner or spouse, you know, you may have like a 3 or 6 months emergency fund, because if your partner can take care of your household when you don't work and they could cover all the expenses, you may not need as much of an emergency fund to get you by if the worst case scenario happens and you lose your income. One of the things I would say is an emergency fund is for emergencies only. So meaning that an emergency is not something you forgot to plan for. It is literally something that pops up unexpected that you have to take care of, like a medical emergency, a car emergency, a loss of a job emergency. So make sure when you're creating this emergency fund, you understand exactly what qualifies as an emergency, so you don't just dip because like, hey, you know what, I didn't budget correctly this month, I'll just dip in that. The other thing about the emergency fund that I want to tell you about is that it should be kept in like a high yield savings account. So your emergency fund shouldn't be kept in the stock market. You shouldn't be kept in the in a traditional savings account that's paying 0.01. It literally should be put in a high yield savings account. And if you're wondering where can I find a high yield savings account, I would recommend that you go to bankrate.com and look at the savings accounts. I will tell you that I use Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and this is not sponsored by them, and this is not and this is just the one I use. And so if you're looking for one, I'm going to link my referral code down at the bottom for you to use that if you want to. But that is my one of choice, and right now it is at 3.65% of interest, as well as you'll get a 0.25, so you'll get up to 4% if you use the link that I have below. So next, after you create your emergency fund, one of the things that I like about Dave Ramsey is he helps you compartmentalize the steps. So you're not like trying to save for emergency fund at the same time you're trying to pay off debt, because if you do all that, you get torn and you move nowhere fast. Have you ever tried to do a whole bunch of things at once but you really didn't accomplish nothing? That's how I can get with finances when you're trying to do so much at one time. And so after you have created your emergency fund, this is when you're going to start to invest in your retirement. And that's why you want to move through these steps fairly quickly as possible, doing all you can to get to there. And so you want to start to up. If you're giving 3% or 6%, it's time to up it to 15%. So what I would say about this is use this at your own discretion. You might find that right now, even though you have your fully funded emergency fund, even though you have no debt, your income just feels like it's not at the point where you can put into a retirement account. What I would suggest is you start with 3% or 6%. You start being serious about it and putting in a retirement account. You all, even if you love what you do, you can still do less of it when you get older and be able to have some income when you retire. A lot of people nowadays can't retire because they did not consider when they were young putting into their retirement account. So I would say your goal is 3%, your goal is 15%, but if you have to do 6% and you up it 2% every year or 1% every year, that's perfectly fine. So make sure that you're doing that. Right now, I've had years where I have done 15, 16%, and I've had years where I could only give 3%. And so there is no shame in where you're at. It's just about starting. And I would say if your employer matches your matches your retirement account, then go ahead and try to put up to the match and then add on as you can. So our some employers will match 3% or 6% or 5% or whatever, however much. Make sure you're at least getting that if you can. And then baby step number 5 is to start to pay off your mortgage. So currently right now, I don't have a mortgage. I don't currently own a home, but this is where you can start to pay off your house and stuff like that. And so because you have no consumer debt, credit card debt, card notes, you can start to take all of this extra money that you were paying on your card notes and that you were using to fund your emergency fund to now to start to fund your mortgage and fund paying off your mortgage. And the good thing about this step will probably take you, so the paying down debt depends on how much you have, and the mortgage may be the longest 2 steps that you have. But this step is really good because when you get into retirement, it's a possibility that your income will dip. So instead of having that income that you had, you have to live off of what you saved. And so, not having a mortgage or having to pay rent, but only the taxes on your property can be a really great benefit when you retire. So it sets you up very nicely to retire, having a paid off home. I will say that if you don't have a home, this is your time to start investing. And so on this channel, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the brokerage account that I have, what I'm invested in, and how I found simplicity to be the best thing to help me build wealth, because then it's time to build wealth. As you get out of survival mode, because a lot of times, when you're going through these baby steps, you're kind of in survival mode. You don't have a fully funded emergency fund, you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, or you're going through the motions and you have some of the things that you want and some of the things that you don't, some of the things that you want. But once you get out of survival mode, the world is your oyster. You can do what you want to do, basically. And so when it comes to the next steps, you can think of college savings for your kids. How much do you want to put away? How do you want to support them going forward? Do you want to be able to gift them with $50,000 when they go off to school as their first scholarship? Or do you want to be able to pay for the whole thing? When you think about building wealth, what are some things that you haven't done that you wanted to do? Where are some places you wanted to experience, see, do, that you haven't got a chance to do? So when I say building wealth, I also mean building a rich life. This channel is called Rich and Rooted because we want to have a rich life. And I define a rich life as a life that is aligned with purpose, values, and your money. When they all collide, when they all align to uniquely give you what enriches you, is a rich life. And so I want you to think about these baby steps. Where are you at? Are you like, hey, I don't have an emergency fund, I don't have $1,000, I got all of this debt, I'm at step 1? Have you already have $1,000 so you just need to start paying down your debt? Are you out of debt or have partial debt, partial savings? Are you in the mix somewhere? And if you're in the mix, I would say to start with step 1 and check them off the box. If you got like some money in savings, but I got some credit card debt and I got some of them emergency fund, let's go back to the basics. You got your $1,000, check, move forward. You got debt, focus on that. Quit doing all that. Stop doing everything else and focus on that debt. Paid off that debt. Don't get into any more debt. The one thing that I want to tell you, and I don't want to belabor this video or make it too long, but the way that I structured my own finances outside of the baby steps. So where I differ, I do own credit cards. Dave Ramsey's plan is to go cashless. And I think that is really important because Dave Ramsey, he's like, I can pay cash for a house because I don't need credit. I would say that for most Americans, if you can use credit to your advantage. I would say that every month how I structure my life is I pay no interest. I don't believe in paying interest. So every month when I have a credit card bill that comes in, I pay it in full so that I pay no interest. So I only spend what I already have the money. I only spend on a credit card what I already have the money to pay off. And what I gain from that is points and a high credit score and stuff like that. And so once you build wealth and you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, I am not a fan of not using credit cards at all. Because when I travel, I feel like it's their safety protection. Like let's say one time I went to New York and I swiped my card on the subway to buy tickets, and it was my credit card, and Bank of America found out and called me before I ever before I ever even knew that somebody had taken advantage and got my card and was buying pizza and some more stuff. And they were like, oh, I'm like, yeah, this is fraud. I was sitting on the subway. I couldn't eat the pizza. So, you know, but that fraud protection that most credit cards have, and when you swipe your credit card with that same protection, like let's say you like to travel and go out of the country, like, you know, if the card gets frozen, it's not hurting like your bill money, or your bills are not getting locked up in that. And so they also have like international, some credit cards allow you to not have any international fees, and if you did it with a traditional debit card, you would have international fees. So there's just a lot of benefits in like having credit cards and having some credit. I don't think there is a such thing as really good debt instead of a mortgage or a student loan debt. And I won't even say all student loan debt is good, but I say like sometimes investing in yourself and in your long-term future and accumulating debt can be helpful, but just caution you there. The other thing that I differ with the Dave Ramsey's plan is that unlike him, unlike Dave Ramsey, where, you know, I feel like, oh, you have to save 15% or you have to do that. There have been years, like I said earlier, that I've saved 15% in retirement, and there have been years where I've scaled back. With the emergency fund, there have been years where my emergency fund was closer to nine months, and there's been years when my emergency fund, especially in this day and age, has dwindled to more of like a 6 months, 7 months emergency fund. So I would say let your circumstances dictate what you need. If you're a household income and one of your incomes can cover your entire mortgage, car pay, well, hopefully by then you'll have your cars paid off, but can cover your mortgage or cover some of the things that you have going on in your household, you can scale back on an emergency fund, or you can scale up. I want to tell you that money also is a mindset. It is a way of thinking. And so if you want more protection, because you're like, what if both me and my husband lose our jobs at the same time? We both need a year worth of an emergency fund. That's okay too. So you can create the money habits and create the structure that feels most comfortable for you. And so I just implore you to think about what is most comfortable, what do I value, and what step am I on? Because these steps really can change your life. And after these steps, there are other steps that I think that you can take to build wealth, and I hope to explore that later on in this channel. But I thank you for rocking with me. I don't want to make this video too long, so just really appreciate you guys rocking with me. Let me know in the comments, what baby step are you on? Where are you focusing at, and how is this step going to change your life? And I'll see you in the next video.